Chuck Dent has been president of the Playwrights Roundtable since 2008. He's joining me today to discuss the process of developing original theatrical works from initial story idea to full stage production. Thanks for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Well, thank you for inviting me here. For me, I've been doing this since the 20th century, acting and being involved in theater. That's my main thing. Originally from West Virginia, but I've lived here in Orlando since 1994. For Playwrights Roundtable, the company got started in 1997. It was started by 4 people who were originally from the Midwest, who then, like a lot of people in the mid-90s, came to Orlando and Central Florida for the film and TV and theater work that was here. And they said, well, we don't have a place for new play development here right now, so why don't we come up with something? And those 4 people created Playwrights Roundtable. And then over the years, it has progressed from being simply workshops, which we still do, to stage readings, and then eventually to full productions starting about a year or so after they got started.
How does the Playwrights Roundtable work?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts. We do have a board of directors. I'm elected the president of it. We do that every year. We elect the officers, re-elect the officers. The board changes names occasionally, but there have been some people who are longtime members like me. So we basically do the administration of it. But when it comes to the plays and selecting them and everything, we do have a whole process. We do have the workshops, which is open to anybody. You don't have to be a member. You don't even have to be from Central Florida. In some cases, we do those online, although we are looking at going back to being in person again, because we used to do that before COVID, and of course that threw everything off. When it comes to the plays that we do for our productions, we put out script calls, depending on what type of scripts we're looking for. That may be a script call that's just for local writers, Central Florida or Florida, or it may be national. But typically, I'd say at least 50% of the work that we do over the course of the year is local playwrights, and the vast majority of the plays we've done in our history have been local playwrights. But we go through the process, we ask for the scripts, we bring those in, we have a reading committee who reads those scripts, scores them, and then they present to the board their recommendations for the top plays for whichever production it's for. It's a blind process. The writers their names are taken off the scripts, so the readers can just be like, okay, I'm just going to read this and judge it on the play, not the name. In case David Mamet shows up or something, which he won't, but that would be nice. And then from that, we pick the plays, then we put out, I hire directors, then we have auditions, we get the folks the actors to do it, and then we usually start about 3 months ahead of each production, and then we do the shows. So it's usually 10-minute plays that we do. We do about 3 or 4 productions of those a year, and we do 8 of those per those productions, and then we do 1 full length a year.
Do you do those 4 10-minute ones back to back in one day, or is it?
What we do is it's 8 10-minute plays in each production, and they're done as an evening of theater. So it's usually Friday, Saturdays, and then a Sunday matinee for those, and then of course for the full length it's just that play. But yeah, they're all done as one evening of theater. So you get all sorts of perspectives and comedies, dramas in between. We've even had some people, do musical stuff for 10 minutes, which is kind of fun. So we get all sorts of stuff like that.
Why is it important to create and develop new theatrical works?
Theater is continually regenerating itself over the years. Now, what we're doing here, we're not Broadway out here. We're not, the David Mamets or the Merrick organization or any of that stuff. But there needs to be a place for writers to have a home. There needs to be a place for people to be able to express themselves, whether it's as a playwright or as an actor or whatever. And so the reason it's important to create this new work is it always needs to continually recreate itself and have new perspectives. There's been a movement here within the industry over the last few years to get more voices of color, of the LGBTQ communities and stuff, more women involved. things like that, which is great. And we've been very out front on some of that ourselves. But the main thing is you always need those new voices coming up, and it's got to start somewhere. Have we had anybody make it to Broadway yet? No, but that's a different process for getting there. But we've had people who've gotten their works read with us, and then they've gone on to do them elsewhere. We've had people who had first productions with us, and then they've had their full-length plays chosen for places like Seattle Rep, I think was the name of the company, as part of their season. So giving the opportunity is the main thing, and that's why you need to have that new stuff. Otherwise, it just becomes static, and you keep doing the same, 30 plays over and over again because they make money, but nobody else tries anything new. So you always want to have that new, fresh, upcoming stuff.
Can you share with us some examples of what you've had come along?
Boy, that's a lot. Yeah, like you say, most of our stuff is 10-minute plays. But we started in 2012 with our full-length productions because we wanted to expand our offerings. The most successful of those, I would say, would be in 2017. We did a play called Miss, which is about the thalidomide case back in the early 60s. Dr. Frances Oldham Kelsey, she was awarded a medal by President Kennedy for her work, making sure that thalidomide did not affect American children like it had here in Europe. The playwright had developed that stuff with us, and after some recommendation stuff, he resubmitted it. We did it. It did very well. It was named one of the top 12 plays of 2017 by Matt Palm over at the Sentinel. It's gotten productions in other cities. It won an award down at the Tampa Bay Theater Festival later that year. It's been produced in Seattle, in Boston. I believe there was interest in a production in Washington, D.C., but I'll have to check with the writer on that one. So that one was pretty unique. But we've had a number of things. We've had plays where the main character was autistic and how he deals with the world and the relationships he has. We've had plays about couples buying a home that had previously been occupied by people whose son became a mass shooter, and how that affects how other people look at the house and the people who live there, stuff like that. So it's all sorts of things like that. We've had some absurdist stuff. The 10-minute plays can cover everything. It can be absurdist, be super realistic. Like I said, it could be even musical in some cases. So those are some of the unique ones. I'd say some of our favorite ones have been things that are like plays on like popular culture. Those happen a lot, but one of them was basically a play about like a Dungeons and Dragons type of thing, except that it was the people from the Dungeons and Dragons world playing doctors and lawyers in this world. They were gaming as a doctor and a lawyer. They have to roll for initiative to see if they could sue somebody, stuff like that. Just really funny takes on stuff that you wouldn't, different perspectives you wouldn't expect. And we're kind of known for that.
What tips do you have for aspiring playwrights?
Well, I'm going to steal something here from a friend of mine who I guess is paraphrasing Neil Gaiman, basically saying that a first draft is just getting paper dirty, or virtual paper dirty, because that's the initial idea. It's possible a first draft is like perfect and ready to go, but generally speaking, it's not. It needs to be finessed. So I tell most writers, write that play, put it down for a few days or a week, come back to it when it's not fresh in your mind, see if everything still makes sense or works for you. That would be one big tip. Another is edit, 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 edit. Try to say as much as you can in as few words. Because, there are people in real life who babble on and on and on and on and on, and you don't want to do that on stage because that gets boring after a while. So you want to make sure you can have maximum effect with whatever you're doing. Also, don't be afraid of silence, because remember, you're not just writing the words, you're writing the actions as well to a certain extent. And a moment of silence rather than a whole monologue can be just as impactful. So I always tell people, don't be afraid of that when it comes to your writing. Otherwise, get it read out loud by somebody who's not you. Just sit and listen and hear what works, because sometimes you'll think, wow, that's a great line that I wrote, and then somebody says it out loud and you're like, no, that didn't work, so I'm going to change that. I've done that with my own plays. I'm also a playwright. But the main thing is just keep doing it. You only get better by repetition. So there was a play by a gentleman named Simon Stevens called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime that he had, it's well known. I think it actually did a tour and came through the Dr. Phillips here. But he was at Rollins a few years ago, and he said a great thing about some of his advice for aspiring playwrights is if you can't find a place to do your plays, self-produce. And that's a great way to learn. And there are a number of people who've done it. I know Todd Kimbrough here in Orlando has done that for years and has done amazing work. And pretty much anybody who's been at the Fringe who is local knows exactly what I'm talking about because you are self-producing your work. And it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn what works, how to market, stuff like that. So that's also another avenue. But definitely get it read out loud. We have that opportunity with our workshops. There's other places that do it, or even if you just want to get some friends and give them some cookies and coffee or something and just read it in your living room, just hear it out loud so you make sure it all works and just revise.
What opportunities are available for actors and directors?
A lot. We do on average 25 plays a year. That's not including if we do the Fringe, because sometimes we do plays at the Fringe if we get through the lottery. But generally speaking, 25 plays a year, you're looking at least, assuming a minimum of 2 actors per play, you're looking at 50 different roles over the course of the year. You have 25 opportunities for directors. Often it's more than that because most plays are not just two people. So there's all sorts of opportunities for us. One of the things that I think is kind of interesting, if you look, like you say, we've been around for 25 years. I'm trying to do a history of PRT right now. I'm trying to make sure all our history is in order and everything. And I've only gotten back to about 2007, 2008, and I'm somewhere north of 500 different actors that have worked with us since 2007. So it's probably going to be much, much higher than that. Directors, probably about 300 or 400. Writers, I'm not sure, but I know 200 or 300 there. So we've done a lot of plays. So there's always going to be opportunities with us. We probably do more short plays, 10-minute plays than anybody else in the country now, which is remarkable. But there's always going to be a place for people if they're looking for something that they can do without having to spend months and months and months on it. The 10-minute plays are great because you're going to rehearse a couple or 3 times a week, then you do the show and you're done. Also, we try to do new plays more or less, and so it's kind of cool as an actor to be the person who created the template for that character and to have your name as the person. This play was first produced at blah 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 in Orlando, Florida, and this actor played this role, and that's going to go on all the published editions, stuff like that. And I personally, as an actor, I think that's cool, but others may disagree.
What community events and festivals do you participate in?
Primarily, the Fringe Festival is what it's been the last few years. United Arts of Central Florida also has a thing called Arts Fest. I know COVID kind of blew that out of the water along with everybody else there for a while. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but for a number of years we participated in the NAT. However, because of the way our schedule over the year works, it's been harder to devote time and effort to that because that's usually when we're doing our full length. But that's typically the sort of thing we've done.
Who can participate in the Playwrights Roundtable?
Anybody. Yeah. I mean, obviously we want people who have experience acting, directing, whatever, but to us, there are no barriers. If you want to audition, come in and audition. If you want to direct, send us a resume or an email stating your interest, and we'll talk. When it comes to writers, we'll accept work from people who are just starting out, have never wrote a play, to people who've had multiple productions, and we've done them. Sometimes we'll get a play from somebody it's their first crack and they did really well, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. But oftentimes there's a learning curve there, but we don't put up barriers to anybody. Our purpose is to serve our writers, and everything else comes from that. So I think I'm doing a disservice to writers who are new, especially if they're brand new if I don't allow them to participate in some way, whether it's the workshops or maybe even getting their stuff produced, depending on how it goes through the reading committee.
Your plays are 10 minutes long. Is it one set plays or do they have different sets? Do they change sets in that 10 minutes?
Yeah, they change. When we put out our script calls, we usually ask people like, okay, keep your, we prefer plays where there's not a dozen people on stage. It's a 10-minute play. You don't want 12 people, but also a very simple set if we can, because when we do our productions, the 10-minute play isn't just going to sit there by itself. There's also 7 others that we have to bring in and out. So yeah, they do have multiple sets. We do try to figure out a plan on how to do that as quickly and efficiently as possible, which can be a headache sometimes, especially if you've got a massive couch or a bed or some large piece of furniture, because we also have to store it and we also have to somehow find a place for it to live off stage while the show is going on. And depending on where we're at, which typically is like this year, it's going to be the Santos Danton at the Shakespeare, there's not a lot of space for that. So, we have to take that in consideration. Sometimes when we're picking plays, I mean, if it said, no, you have to do this, I'm like, can we do a futon maybe, or a small couch, an inflatable couch or something? Because otherwise it's, it may not work. That can be a concern with those. Also with the full lengths, that can be a concern, because if they're saying like you need to build like a 2-level set, I'm like, we're in a 60-seat black box. That's not going to happen on this. It's not going to be August Osage County where they spend 4 pages explaining the entire set and everything that needs to be on it, which is amazing. If you've never read it, read the opening of the play. That it's 4 pages describing the set.
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
People want to follow us. We're on Facebook. We're PRT, Playwrights Roundtable. We also have more or less, I guess you could call it a business page. It's just Playwrights Roundtable. That one is open to anyone. The other one, you have to request to become a member. You can also send an email to the prtfl@gmail.com and request to be put on our monthly newsletter. That comes out, at the beginning of the month, and give you scoops on what, if we're hiring for directors, if we have auditions, if we have new script calls, when our productions start, where you can get tickets, special events, things like that. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, because everybody is on Instagram and Twitter. I'm probably forgetting one social media somewhere, but yeah, we're on pretty much all of them.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoy it. Thanks.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.